It's Friday, the 17th of April, 2026. The time, as it always is 10 past tomorrow. And right now, I'm going to talk about Fortune ran this article last week, which was built around a survey of over 1,000 knowledge workers. And the headline stats were these. 76% of people who use AI at work are now saving at least 30 minutes per day. 43% of them are saving an hour or more because of their AI use. And the question is, what are they doing with that time? Well, according to the survey, they're going to the gym, they're taking a longer lunch, they're leaving a little bit early, they're skipping meetings that they didn't need to be in, and not because anyone in the organization gave them permission, but actually the opposite, specifically because no one told them that they couldn't. And so this, I think, actually has a relationship to possibly one of the most important conversations within the entire AI conversation right now. And that's like, what does the future of work, what does the shape of work for all of us look like? What's coming? How do we avoid this wave of AI layoffs that's hanging like a threatening cloud over the top of us? How do people keep their sense of dignity and purpose inside their jobs? And how do organizations and the individuals inside them evolve together with AI rather than against each other? There's two kind of reactions to the story that I'm talking about, this survey that I'm talking about. And the first is positive, and I've seen people say, well, good for them. People are burnt out all over the world. If AI gives them breathing room, then that's a win. And the second is a little bit more suspicious, and it's kind of summarized. I'd summarize it by saying, like, so people are using company tools to clock off early. And I think both of those reactions are pretty understandable. There's a little bit of truth in both of them, but I actually think that both of them miss the point entirely. The more interesting question to me here is not what workers are doing with the time that AI frees up. It's what the organizations are not doing with it currently. And so let's talk about what usually happens when leadership within an organization notices the time savings from AI, because there's a pretty predictable pattern with it. In fact, the CTO at Dun and Bradstreet, he actually captured the instinct perfectly in the Fortune article. He said his take, and this is paraphrased, was a task that used to eat 8 hours of someone's week now takes them 2. So he compiled 20 hours of work into that same space. And that's kind of the instinct, is that AI made the task go faster, so now we can just do more of it, and we can fill the gaps that it creates by increasing the output that we expect from people. BCG, Boston Consulting Group, they ran a study and they found that workers who are managing multiple AI tools are actually reporting 12% more mental fatigue. Now, I don't know how you measure 12% more mental fatigue, but the point is they're reporting more mental fatigue from their AI use, not less. They're calling it AI brain fry, which I think is a term we'll maybe hear more of. I actually went deep on this exact dynamic a few weeks ago in one of these video essays that I made. I called it the AI vampire. You can see that in the back catalogue of these essays. So if you're seeing signs of AI fatigue in yourself from using these tools to the full capacity, it's worth maybe watching that video. I'll put the link below this video. And so anyway, this is the pattern that I keep seeing within the organizations that we're working with, is that AI compresses the time it takes to do a task. And then the organization, unless there's a strategy around this, the organization just fills that gap with more work, right? The person, therefore, is just as busy as before, maybe busier, although they're doing their tasks far quicker and more effectively. So the net is that nothing has fundamentally changed, right? The workflow's faster, but the workload isn't lighter. Nobody's necessarily learned anything new about what AI represents for them. They haven't actually changed the workflow. It's just the same treadmill, but set to a higher speed because it's had AI tacked onto it. And I'll say this again because I really want it to come through strongly. AI is supposed to transform how we work, and it can do that, and it does do that when there's a strategy around this and a cultural change around this. The capability of AI to transform how we work is there, but if all we do is compress the same work into fewer hours and then stack more work on top of it, then we haven't really transformed anything. We've just accelerated things. And so here's how I think about this. It's that every CEO and leadership team right now, whether they've articulated it or not, is facing a choice about what to do with the time that AI gives people back. And actually, I'd say time and energy. And the way I see it, there's only really three options. Option one is reinvest everything back into output. Translation, AI equals more work just done faster in the same 40 hours. And this, due to human nature and organizational nature, this is probably the default reaction that workers assume that their leadership will take before they've even made the call. You know, it's like the parody version of what leadership will do with AI. But unfortunately, it's actually not just a parody. It's also kind of what we see happen in the real world by default when nobody makes a deliberate decision within an organization about what AI should enable. Because it's kind of human nature to absorb free capacity automatically. So that's option one. Option two, I think, is give people some time back. Maybe let them leave earlier, take proper breaks, reduce the number of meetings, maybe at the extreme, go to a 4-day work week. Maybe half a day a week is invested into community outreach by employees. This is what the workers in that survey that I talked about at the top that was profiled in Fortune, this is what they're already doing. They're just doing it on their own without waiting to be asked, you know, and it's legitimately happening and for real reasons, you know, like work-life balance really matters and burnout is real. But on its own, giving back time doesn't actually benefit the organization. It's a relief valve that they switch on for their people. And sometimes you need that, but it's not actually a strategy of where do the benefits of AI accrue. So in this scenario, the benefits of AI accrue to the individual and probably the individual operating with AI in the shadows, but the benefit doesn't accrue to the organization. And so there's option three, and this is the one that I think changes things. And it's to create what we are now calling innovation sandboxes within your organization. And these are protected time windows where a portion of the capacity that AI frees up actually goes back into learning and experimentation and capability building for the individuals, for teams. And it's important to say this is not given as like a perk or a reward for your AI use. It's like a structural commitment by the leadership, by management to embed it into the organization. And the beauty of it is that innovation sandboxes benefit the organization and the individual. So there's a guy called Brian Ackerman. He's the head of AI strategy at Korn Ferry, which is one of the big global leadership and talent consultancies. And he said that beyond firing people, companies aren't at the moment really thinking strategically about how to incorporate the time savings that AI creates and the energy savings. So there's another guy actually, a guy called Phil Kirshner. He's a workplace strategist who writes a newsletter called Walk the Work Line about how work and workplaces actually evolve. And he said, and this one like really stuck with me, recovered time without a design is actually just a vacancy, and vacancies fill fast. And that's kind of it to me. That's the crux of things, is that if we don't design what happens with the time savings from AI, the treadmill will design it for us. So what does an innovation sandbox actually look like? It's not that complicated in theory, but I'll be the first to admit that there's complexity to be worked through by leadership to how to actually bring this into being. But this is what it looks like. Let's start with an assumption that a team is saving 10%. They're getting 10% of freed up capacity because of good use of AI. So that team's saving 4 hours a week through AI. If they are, then what about if 30 minutes of that 4-hour savings goes into structured AI experimentation? There's time put aside that they have to do experimentation with the AI skills and tools that they have. And then another 60 minutes of that 4 hours saved could go into more AI skill and literacy training. Um, those numbers sound small. That's only 1.5 hours out of the 4 hours saved. But across, let's say, a 50-person organization, that's 25 hours per week that goes into innovation. And that time didn't exist. That innovation time didn't exist before. And then there's another 25 hours of people learning, testing, building, another 50 hours of further AI skill and literacy training. And that creates more freed capacity, which in turn creates more power and freedom for the innovation sandbox time. It's like a virtuous circle in action. And and I'll say it again, innovation sandbox time is not free time. That's important. It's structured. It needs to be set up in a way that it produces visible things like prototypes or process improvements or an idea that's been tested or a written recommendation. And then like the AI council or whoever governs AI in your organization, they curate all of these experiments. They can pull from them and introduce them into the organization, right? So I want to repeat this because I get a real joy and excitement out of speaking about this concept out loud, and I hope you do too from hearing it. That there's a cycle here. AI saves time, and then a protected portion of that time goes back into AI learning and experimentation for things that will benefit the organization. But also the people are developing deeper capabilities and skills, and those capabilities get applied back to their work. So the organization is accruing benefit here, not just going faster. And people are accruing benefit. They're accruing real skills, real knowledge, and real case studies which strengthen their own careers and benefit their own careers, right? And so the cycle repeats and it fortifies itself and it gains energy and momentum. The organization benefits, obviously, but the people feel energized and supported and free and engaged, both with AI and within their roles. And so they become excited to engage with the technology, knowing that they aren't simply being asked to flog themselves harder and that they're contributing to the advancement of their own careers and the growth of the organization. But without the sandbox, the cycle just breaks, right? The free time just vanishes into more output. People never deepen their skills. They probably get burnt out. Their jobs actually become threatened by AI rather than superpowered by it. And the organization as a whole just stays exactly where it was, just doing more stuff in the same 40 hours with tired people who are always checking over their shoulder about whether AI is coming for their jobs, while at the same time they're actually using it in the shadows. So let's go all the way back to that stat that I opened with. 76% of workers using AI have already figured out what to do with the time it gives them back. They are going to the gym, they're eating lunch away from their desks, they're leaving at a reasonable hour. They have answered the question about what AI means for themselves. So I think the question now is, will leadership answer this question for the organization and for their people? Because if leadership doesn't, one of two things happens. The treadmill, either the treadmill absorbs every minute of free capacity and your people burn out anyway, or your people keep making their own under the radar choices about what they do with their saved time, and the chances lost to channel AI into something that actually builds real lasting capability and culture and growth. I said at the top of this that one of the conversations I care about most across the whole scope of AI is this one. I really do. It's about the future of work. It's about the threat of mass layoffs. It's about dignity and purpose inside our jobs and how we hold on to that. And it's about organizations and people growing together rather than pulling apart. And all of that, all what runs through all of that is this is a choice that the leadership team makes about what to do with the time that AI gives. Does that time accrue? Does the benefit accrue to the individual or to the organization or to both? So if any of this lands for you, I would love to hear your thoughts either in the comments below or over on LinkedIn. Otherwise, see you next week, everyone.